I'm sure you're already familiar with the analogy about how to boil a frog. The idea is that if you put a living frog into a tub of boiling water, the frog will jump out and you won't be able to boil it. But if you put it into tepid water and slowly raise the temperature, the frog won't really notice and it'll stay in there until it just gets to a point where it dies. I don't know if that's scientifically accurate, but it's an analogy people use for usually societal change or just any kind of change in a person's life. If you do it gradually enough, they are much more likely to not kick up a fuss. They're not going to jump out of the pot, so to speak. I recently noticed such a incremental tiny change in my own life. In my workplace, we were required to sign up for an online service. Everyone in the office had to make an account, and this online service, in the place where you have to fill in your details, your name, your job title, a few other relevant bits of information, there was a option to choose your pronouns, and rather than just having he, she, he, him, she, her, and maybe they, them, which I kind of would have expected, there were 6 additional options to those rather standard 3. E-M, Z-Zem, Z-Zem but with Z's instead of X's, Z-Zer, Z-I, or Z-Her, Z-Zer, giving 9 in total. 9 options for what your pronouns are. I want to emphasize that there's nothing difficult about choosing she, her from that list, which are my pronouns. And yet I felt in that moment of, being asked to choose a pronoun out of this list of 9, that choosing one of these pronouns would be legitimizing the existence of all 9 pronouns. Nobody at my workplace has sat me down and asked me to sign a document declaring that there are at least 9 genders, or that gender doesn't exist, or something to that effect. And yet, just by using this service and by requiring me to use this service, I feel like my workplace has made a kind of political statement that I am now complicit in because I am using the service that has asked me to use these pronouns. I don't even hate these pronouns that much. If somebody wants to not conform to the male-female dichotomy, that's not really my business. I don't actually care. And like I said, it's not difficult to choose she, her from this list. And yet I feel like I'm just being asked to be complicit in this worldview by choosing the pronouns. And I'm not going to make a fuss about that. This video isn't about me having to choose my pronoun from a list. That doesn't really matter. The point is that I had this realization that the frog in the analogy gets boiled because I suppose it doesn't even notice that the water is getting hotter. That's kind of what I assumed. The frog is stupid, and it doesn't notice when you increase the water's temperature by 1 degree every minute, or maybe every hour. I don't know how slowly you have to do this in real life, or if this is even scientifically accurate, as I stated. But when it relates to people notice the change. You'll notice things are different to how they were a year ago or 10 years ago. The difference with people is that they can't reasonably object to it. There's no way to reasonably object to this pronoun list, because I'm not being asked to do anything difficult or immoral. If I spoke to my line manager or to the HR manager who is setting this up and said, I don't like this pronoun list, what are they supposed to say to me? What am I supposed to say is appalling about this list? I just want to emphasize that I don't even care enough to take it up as a complaint at the office. It doesn't actually bother me that much. It just makes me self-aware about the fact that I at some point in the next 10 or 20 years, this might just keep going. There might just be a series of things that I can't object to, that I'm asked to do, just to, have an easy life, just to get by. And there will never be a reasonable objection to each additional step, each additional increase of 1 degree of the water. It's only 1 degree hotter. What's the big deal, right? But the thing is, it never goes backwards. It's always in the same direction. The push is always an increase in temperature. It's not like the temperature's randomly increasing and decreasing. It's always going up. And so I feel like in 20 years I might be... I'm not saying this will happen, but I can imagine a world where through these incremental steps, none of which are on their own something that I can object to, I might in 20 years have to stop using pronouns altogether, for example, just to take this pronoun thing as the particular hill that I'm dying on right now. If in 20 years I'm still working in an office, maybe the same office, probably a different one, the HR manager might ask all of us who work there to stop using pronouns because some people don't believe in gender, or maybe the new stance of the company that I work at is that gender doesn't exist, and therefore none of the employees are referred to as he or she. Everybody has to be they or them, or maybe we'll just use each other's names, or maybe we'll call each other comrade. The point is that I can't, even now I can't formulate an intelligent, reason why I care about being called she, her, or that I care about, why I want to refer to people in my office as their gender. There's no reasonable objection to it other than the fact that I'm resistant to the idea of tyranny, that somebody, the things that I say are somebody else's business, or that my continued employment at a place is dependent on my opinions about gender. That seems completely irrelevant to my job, and and it is. I've been reading 1984 on this channel and live streams over the course of a few weeks, and I don't know if I'll be able to finish it, but it really, it's fiction, it's a novel, and yet it does seem to speak to something true about the nature of, sort of psychological tyranny. The way that if you can control people's language, if you can control their behaviour, then you're really reaching into their mind and changing their brains of citizens, or the employees of your workplace. I worry that I'm not brave enough, or that I'm not smart enough to actually stand up to what could amount to tyranny if we keep going along this path. And like I said before, it never goes backwards, it only goes forwards along this path towards tyranny, towards 1984. Or even if we only ever get halfway there, that's still pretty bad. And so I wonder at which step am I going to actually stand up and object to it, if ever. How many people in this world are actually, brave enough and articulate enough to stand up to this, this slow progress towards a boiling pot of water. And that's probably all I can say on that topic without going completely off the rails onto, an incomprehensible rant. Before you go, you might consider following me on Parler, which is the new alternative to Twitter that all the cool kids are joining. It's a sort of a free speech platform alternative to the slightly tyrannical nature of Twitter. So that's just @PoThePerson. I will put that in the description. And I would also tell you about a recent video that I made with my friend Sam on his channel about the it's about the tweets of a certain Cambridge professor who was recently put into the, went viral, as they say, talking about how white lives don't matter as white lives. So that was what her tweet said, and we talked about that. For the last 4 years, say, but especially in the last 2 weeks, I've been seriously worried about to what extent I'm going to have to cover up what I really think, to save my job, to save my relationships with people in my life. And I just for a second, thinking about this news story, I put myself in the position of this professor, this Gopal, and I can't imagine what it's like to be that confident, that sure of yourself to post something that inflammatory and know that you'll keep your job. And you can find a link to that in the description. I'll put that there. It was a really good chat, and I hope some of you will go see it. That's all there is for now. If you want to go watch my live streams of 1984, I would suggest that. It's been really good fun reading it. But until next time, have a good life, I suppose. All the best to you.